G-Men. I'm Jerry,
I'm Clayton.
and welcome to Fixing the Franchise. And today we are talking Giants football, New York Giants football. Clayton, when I say the New York Giants, what player comes to mind?
Lawrence Taylor, LT, Jerry.
Man, you know what? That that is basically an identity, right? And that identity was defensive excellence. And right
hmm
now, Clayton, let me ask you, is that the current Giants identity?
It's not their identity, but I think they're doing a better job of trying to get back to that. But their current situation, they just don't have the talent to call it defensive excellence.
Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you, right now, I mean, we're looking at right now they're projected to be picking second pick overall in the 2021 draft. So let me ask you, Clayton, what is going on with the Giants?
Well, if I could start on the offensive side of the ball, I know a lot of people were upset with them picking Daniel Jones, but from what we've seen altogether, he's not a bad quarterback. I think the kid has actually shown us what he's good at and what needs improvement on, but hasn't had a lot of weapons to work with so far. I think the stat is that he's only had Evan Ingram, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, and Saquon Barkley on the field together for 2 games. He's working with broken toys right now. His game is quick game. They went out against the Steelers and played a very competitive game early on. Whenever they were dinking and dunking down the field, he's a very accurate pocket. His pocket presence is great. He's very accurate when working the pocket. He's a little athletic, can get outside. But whenever they dial up the pressure on the long third downs, they can get after him and cause some havoc on him. So they need to get him some weapons offensively. Defensively, they just don't have a playmaker. I think scheme wise, they're doing a good job creating pressure on their own with what they've got, but they don't have the cornerbacks and safety help to not get to the quarterback in time and actually defend. But up front, I don't think they have the talent to win one-on-one battles, so they're having to do a lot of blitzing and creative scheming to get pressure on the quarterback. What do you think, Jerry?
Man, I think you're right on so many levels, right? Because I mean, even though Saquon is out right now this year, aside from that, Saquon Barkley is a danger. And let's go offense, right? I mean, Saquon Barkley is just. I mean, when we see him, we know we're. I mean, he doesn't really. I mean, in the beginning, he didn't need much blocking. It looked like he could make the yards himself, right? And then,
Right.
like you said, you bring in Danny Dimes, right? Is that what they're calling him nowadays?
I think so.
So you bring in Daniel Jones, and I mean, honestly, what I see is I see a big strong quarterback. I see a very tough
Mhm.
quarterback actually. Man, he's taken some hits. He's been able to take some hits and get up and still put the Giants in a good position. So, overall on the defense, I think you said it best, right? They're missing a playmaker, and forever and ever. I mean, when I think the Giants, I also thought Lawrence Taylor, and right now I don't see that on their team. They have a great, they do have a pretty great defensive line, just not that dominant edge rusher and the corners, right? So let's go ahead and fix them, Clayton. So tell me, I mean, we have the second pick. It's the off season. Where do we go first?
Well, I think the more tempting thing to do is to go and grab a talented playmaker like Saquon Barkley to pair with Daniel Jones. But I think we can hold off on that and address the defensive side of the ball, in my opinion. So I would go Micah Parsons, the linebacker from Penn State. I think he's very athletic. I think he can turn and cover guys out of the backfield. And even though edge rusher, outside linebacker might be the most pressing need on the Giants right now, we've seen what great inside linebacker presence and play does for a defense. Look at Bobby Wagner in Seattle. Look at Luke Kuechly in his years in his tenure for the Carolina Panthers. They anchor that defense and gave them that identity the same way Lawrence Taylor did. I think if you pair Parsons with a guy like Blake Martinez, who's a tackling machine, I think you've already set the tone defensively. And then going into the second round, you could draft an edge rusher, maybe a project player like Hamilcar Rashad Jr., who's a speedy edge rusher. He's kind of falling down the board a little bit for some people. I think you could get your edge rusher later on, or maybe even in free agency. What about you, Jerry? What are you thinking?
Man, it's kind of tough, right? Because I mean, who recently departed from the Giants, right, via trade? That was OBJ, and I think if Jones did have his playmaker like OBJ, right, Odell Beckham Jr. Man, there is one out there right now, and these Giants, us even with the second pick, man. I mean, this draft is loaded with quarterbacks. I think that they could push back on the quarterback, but man, can you imagine if they bring in a Jamar Chase? Wow, what would that do for the Giants fan base, right? I know though, Micah Parsons. It's just wow. I mean, he could do it all. As far as playing linebacker, he could play all positions, and I think that you're back to that identity, that Lawrence Taylor identity. So let's go and stick with the Micah Parsons. Now, is there, so you said if we stick with Michael Parsons in the second round, how about we maybe address, like you said, maybe adding some depth, maybe a corner, right? So if you look out there this year, it looks like this is going to be the class for cornerbacks. Um, I just don't know at this point because it's just so insane as far as who's going to be picking where. But I can definitely tell you some of the hotter names won't be there. So I would say they should focus on the cornerback at that position because we did say in free agency there that this year it was going to be loaded at what position?
Wide receivers. There's going to be tons of wide receivers and guys you're not even really thinking of, maybe as a stud, a 1A guy, an alpha male, but
Yeah,
so integral to their offensive success. A guy like Sammy Watkins, he's a key cog in that Kansas City offense that after paying Patrick Mahomes half of Jeff Bezos' fortune, they can't afford to bring back everybody. They
no,
just
yeah,
can't. Sammy Watkins is probably going to be on the move. You've got guys like Keelan Cole, Corey Davis, a very talented wide receiver that the Titans probably aren't going to sign back.
yeah,
Curtis Samuel has
yeah,
shown flashes of being brilliant in his young career. He's only 25. Guys that could just get open in short space, run that quick game for Daniel Jones and create yards after the catch, much like a Chase or an Odell Beckham Jr. are great at doing.
yeah,
I think a Curtis Samuel would be great at that, on the cheap, because in free agency, I'm sorry, Giants fans, but you're kind of strapped for cash. You're sitting
yeah.
17th in projected cap right now at 17 million. Like I said, projected. This could all change based on extensions, potential extensions, or um, cuts or anything like that if there's any moves to be made in the future. But right now, you're sitting on the back half of the league.
No, yeah, and like you said, I mean, you got Saquon coming up. I mean, I know the injury, but he's gonna get paid. I would expect him to be up there, in at least in the Christian in between Christian McCaffrey. I mean, if he didn't have an injury, we wouldn't be having this conversation. He would be getting paid
Right.
more than any running back right now in the league. But still, you got his contract looming. Are you guys going to keep Leonard Williams? That was you guys spent a couple of draft picks on him, and he's franchise tag. So free agency, you're going to have to really be very very smart. Let me ask you, what about the coaching staff? What do you think? Should we stay with the coaching staff?
I like what they've done. I like what Joe Judge has assembled around them. I don't think that they're doing a bad job scheme wise. I think it's consistency throughout a game is what's killing the Giants right now. I think they're coming out in most of their games actually being competitive, and we're seeing some good football. But like I said, or referencing that Pittsburgh Steelers game against the Giants in Week 1, for some reason Jason Garrett just abandons the quick game and starts taking deep shots when they didn't really need to. I don't understand something like that. And yeah, it would be tempting in free agency. Like you said, you got to pay Saquon and maybe Leonard Williams. You got to pay your studs, but what it's going to be tempting to maybe go try to snag a Kenny Galladay in free agency. But I don't think this team is that many pieces away, a star piece away from being a well-oiled machine offensively.
I'm gonna agree with you, Clayton. Like I said, I think with the Micah Parsons pick right there, I think the Giants are already winning. Like you said, get into free agency, try to find yourself. Maybe like you said, a Curtis Samuel. He's shown some great flashes, right? And the second round, maybe try and get yourself the best safety available. I mean, the thing is that there's so many safeties right now, and they're all projected first, high first, second round. Georgia has two corners right now, right?
Hmm.
And
Right.
I mean, you got Caleb Farley, who I think he's probably the best. You got Patrick Surtain the second. You know, who else do we got? We got Sean Wade.
Right.
Man, I mean, the list goes on and on. So definitely, with if the Giants are picking second, you can expect, maybe one of these corners to fall into their seat. And now the Giants are back in it. Yeah, I mean, Jason Garrett, like you said, I mean, I know some people don't like him, some don't, but let's give him to the end of the season to see if he can actually pull a good rally together. But let's go ahead and keep this coaching staff in place. Give me Micah Parsons, and let's try and get ourselves a wide receiver in the offseason, and we fix the franchise. And now we can talk about playoffs, right? Where the Giants
Oh,
belong.
right. Right. Yeah.
So
I think I think too, going back to Daniel Jones, what made Eli Manning so successful in your opinion during his tenure in New York, Jerry?
well, I mean, you're gonna have to go to the fast four, right? The defensive ends, the entire defense actually. But I was gonna say the NASCAR package, but I mean, yeah, the defense. So definitely, yes. I think that just putting Micah Parsons and solidifying the corner position, now the Giants are back in it. So, everybody, thank you so much for joining in. But we would like to see in the comment section, we would like to see how you're going to fix the franchise for the G Men. As always, thank you. Make sure you like and subscribe and turn on all notifications because check it out. We have the Falcons coming up next. Let's see how we fix that franchise. Thank you.